Michigan voters believed that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from. My mother worked very hard. She, by the time I was a teenager, was able to save up for our first home.
All right, so Kamala Harris just delivered one of her worst speeches, in my opinion, during this entire campaign, because she is titling this speech her closing argument. So given the context, I think this is bad. All right. Now, of course, she makes 80% of the speech about Donald Trump. So what we're going to do is hear some highlights from that speech, debunk the lies, of course, and deliver some common sense as a reaction. Let's start at the very beginning when her speech didn't get off to a good start.
Thank you, everyone. So listen, 1 week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, the beginning of her speech was dominated by sirens. If you're from D.C., then you would expect that the sirens in D.C. seems to be very loud. And so it didn't get off to a good start, to say the least. And then she descends into Orange Man Bad. Let's start with the first one.
Intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other.
All right, so a very inflammatory statement to say that he's going to use the military to go after his political opponents. We know that's not even possible, for the record, okay? It wouldn't even happen. That's number one. Number two, the only evidence where there has been physical action against a political opponent has been the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration against Trump. That's very clear. And number three, she keeps, it's a double binding message. On one hand, you're saying, I want to turn the page from all this divisiveness and hate speech and fear mongering. But then you make comments like that. So tell me how that works. And here's the next one.
Politicians have got to stop treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in an election. And instead treat it as the serious challenge that it is, that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need.
Okay, let's take her at her word. So, Madam Vice President, why didn't you create another bill in 2022? Create another bill in 2023? Why not try to issue executive orders? Why not go out there campaigning and calling out Congress for not offering up a bill? It's only in 2024 that a bill was finally offered, and because it didn't fall through, you want to use that as a bargaining chip in your political campaign. But people are seeing right through that. So that's number one. Number two, oh, don't use immigration to round up votes. Isn't that what you're doing with the abortion issue? Talking about women are bleeding out in a parking lot? I mean, this is why her campaign is just, it's a walking contradiction. But what's more fascinating is how delusional she is about January 6th. Listen to this.
Person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. An election that he knew he lost. Americans died as a result of that attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack. And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television, he was told by his staff that the mob wanted to kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: "So what?" America, that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who is asking you to give him another 4 years in the Oval Office.
Okay, so as it pertains to January 6th, let's just have a heart-to-heart, because I know you're watching this video. I want to ask you a question directly. If January 6th is everything they say that it was, and Donald Trump did everything that they said that he did, why was he not fully impeached? And I ask you that question because if it's as serious as they say that it is, I would have expected by now, because we're pretty much coming up on 4 years. But the reality is they're not telling everybody the full story of January 6th. I guarantee you he will never be held accountable in the way that they say he should, because he really didn't do the things they say that he did. Anyways, I digress. I mean, January 6th, if this is your closing argument, prosecutor from San Francisco, you are not doing a good job, because you're singing to your choir. You're not speaking to independents and undecided voters at this point. All right, so here's Kamala Harris creating another campaign ad for Trump. Watch.
So America, let us reach for that future. Let us fight for this beautiful country we love. And in 7 days, we have the power, each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
Okay, so before I go any further, if you're getting value from this video so far, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below. Grab yourself a t-shirt or buy us a cup of coffee. Now, this is her closing argument. Again, like I told you guys, at least 80, probably 90% all about Trump, 10% about what people really want to hear, the voters, that is. So this is a colossal failure, and it's not my opinion. Democrats are saying this. Strategists are saying this. Undecided voters are saying this. Independents are saying this. I guess she just refuses to take advice. So there's that. Now, earlier this day, she was doing local interviews at these affiliate news channels, and she's just up to her same ways where she refuses to give people any sense of clarity with her answers. And when you're thinking about the swing state of Michigan, where there was auto workers who were just laid off, you think she would have came up with something better than this. Watch.
What's your message to Michigan voters in terms of the economy? We have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent. And recent polls in Michigan show that Michigan voters believe that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from. My mother worked very hard. She, by the time I was a teenager, was able to save up for our first home.
You know, when I was in the military, they used to have a thing. We don't care where you're from. We care about what you're going to do with us right here together as a team and moving forward to accomplish the mission. I mean, it's fascinating that that is what she goes to as the first words out of her mouth. So what else is there to say about that? And of course, she can't do any better when it comes to grocery prices. Watch.
I'm curious when you look at Milwaukee, for example, and voters say, yes, I may agree with everything you say, but I can't afford my groceries, I can't afford my mortgage. And they may point to you in the past 4 years as the reason behind that. What do you tell those voters in this final week?
First of all, listen, price of groceries is still too high. I get it. Which is why I have a plan that is about bringing down the cost of groceries, including going after corporate price gouging, which frankly is about some corporations, not all of them, but the bad actors jacking up prices.
You guys have known we've talked about this at length. Price gouging is not the solution to the grocery prices right now. The grocery prices have been inflated because of what? Inflation. Why does inflation happen? Because of government spending. So if you're expecting grocery prices to come down if she becomes president, that's not going to happen. Now, there's a great question that she was asked that we all have been saying this entire time. Why hasn't she done it? She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Why have you not been vocal about these issues you are now all of a sudden campaigning on? Here's her answer.
I think what some voters are struggling with, and we've heard this across the state, is when you discuss your plans, they come back and ask, well, why haven't you done it already?
Well, I'm not president.
You're vice president.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to tell you what I'm doing as president when I have the ability then to do what I know based on my experience is a new approach that is about building on the good work that has happened. But there's more to do. There's more to do.
That's just not going to work. She knows it. I know it. You know it. Undecided voters know it. America knows it. And again, she just cannot escape the Joe Biden presidency because she's the vice president. There's no way to justify that. I think she's dead on arrival because she's been in the White House. Now, remember that whole speech. We got to come together. We got to be united. We got to stop using hate and fear mongering in this country. Well, of course, the interviewer asked her about her running mate doing that. Here's what she said.
I talked with Governor Walz yesterday. Okay. He compared Trump's rally on Sunday to that of one of the Nazi rallies in the 30s at Madison Square Garden. Do you compare that? Do you find that a similar comparison?
Listen, this election is in 7 days, and I think the American people have a very clear choice. And on the one hand, you have Donald Trump, who is constantly fanning the flames of division and hate, who is trying to have the American people point their fingers at each other, or my leadership, which is founded on a lived and experience that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
So in other words, she agrees with Tim Walz. And the reason why people will take that type of mindset away from what she said, because she's not being transparent. And in the absence of transparency, people have the right to think what they want to think. And then the narrative becomes out of her control. She can control the narrative on this if she really wanted to. She doesn't. She's fine with everybody around her saying that Trump is Hitler and that was a Nazi rally. She's cool with that because it helps her do what? Try to get elected, which I don't think it will. I think it's a huge mistake on her campaign's behalf. Now, there are reports that there was protests at the rally in regards to the whole Hamas-Israel war. We're talking about people who support Palestine. They've been following her at every single rally that she hosts. And so I'm sure there's going to be more videos that come out about that. However, there's already been a reaction from this speech on CNN. I think it sums up this entire video I just made for you. Watch this.
I hate to be the skunk at the garden party here, but I think, you know, I plan political events for a living, and I think this was political malpractice to put her in front of this White House. 68% of Americans think that the country's on the wrong track, and they blame Joe Biden, and increasingly they're blaming Kamala Harris. By standing in front of that White House tonight, she's going to own all 68% of that disapproval. And, you know, I think it's a comfort reason. I think Northwest Washington, D.C. is about her best precinct in America. Everybody likes her there. She should have been in the Union Lodge in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh tonight. That would have done her a lot more good. And I also don't think that she did a lot for Nikki Haley voters. They've talked a lot this week about that they were going after Haley voters. And I think the Haley voters had to be looking at this as like a Christmas present they opened up and it was socks. You know, they got nothing new from her, nothing that wasn't in her convention speech, frankly. And I don't think this moves the ball for her here at the end.
If you know you're a part of the existing administration where 70% of Americans don't agree with, Joe Biden has a 56% disapproval rating. Okay, it's dragging her poll numbers down. wouldn't you want to separate yourself from anything that has to do with the White House?
I think people see her in the White House. They see her in this White House, and they see that she says she would do nothing different from Joe Biden. She told Anderson in your town hall, she said she couldn't think of mistakes she'd made in this last 4 years. I think the problem she has and the reason that she's in trouble right now is because she can't get past this administration's failure.
And as her luck would have it, Joe Biden, her boss, at the same time that she's doing this rally, he comes out and says this.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
So we'll see if the mainstream media actually reports that fairly, which is he just called half of Americans garbage. He said it, his supporters. He didn't say Trump is garbage. He said his supporters are garbage. So let's wait and see. Let's see if those are on the headlines tomorrow, right? POTUS calls half of America garbage. I want to see that. But yeah, this is about to go viral currently right now. This is during her speech. It's crazy that everything Joe Biden does is contradicting Kamala Harris, right? That's what we've been seeing.
Well, and the White House is trying to say that what President Biden was saying, they're putting an apostrophe there in supporters, saying it's the singular, I guess referring to the comedian, that supporters comments. I mean, it's hard to really look at that when you can listen to it for yourself. Governor, first off, just what's your response to that comment from President Biden, where it sounds like he's calling Trump supporters there garbage?
Yeah, look, I had not heard that until now, Caitlin, so I'm kind of giving you my fresh reaction to it. I would never insult the good people of Pennsylvania or any Americans, even if they chose to support a candidate that I didn't support.
So it looks like Caitlin Collins is not even buying it. And of course, Marco Rubio came on stage during Donald Trump's rally and told him about what Joe Biden just said. Here's that reaction.
All right. Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage. Are garbage. He's talking about the Border Patrol. He's talking about nurses. He's talking about teachers. He's talking about everyday Americans who love their country and want to dream big again and support you, Mr. President. And I hope their campaign is about to apologize for what Joe Biden just said. We are not garbage. We are patriots who love America. And thank you for running, Mr. President.
So you have, remember Hillary, she said deplorable, and then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable, that didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know, you have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said. These people, terrible, terrible. Terrible to say a thing like that, but he really doesn't know. He really, honestly, he doesn't. And I'm convinced that he likes me more than he likes Kamala. Convinced.
All right, so what did we have today from Kamala Harris? Okay, so we had this huge rally at the Capitol where optics are really not good. If she's just trying to fire up her base, good for her. But if she's trying to appeal to the Nikki Haley voters, like the gentleman was saying on CNN, independents, undecided voters, colossal failure. No one wants to hear about Trump. Why do you keep bringing him up? I understand you may need to reference him here or there, but when every single point you make comes back to Trump, right, then you're just losing people at that point. Then she has the local interviews with these affiliates. Same answers as always, so she didn't do herself any favors there. Joe Biden, at the same time of this speech, comes out and calls half of America garbage as well for supporting Trump. So with all this energy and attention on this particular rally, for her to make her closing argument, she sure did have a funny way of delivering it, which was a failure. So that is my opinion. What did you guys think about the speech? I just showed you some highlights. There's plenty to watch. It was about 29 minutes. What did you think about her local interviews? And what do you think about Joe Biden saying what he said during her speech. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. This rally is not going to really do anything for her because she already ended her campaign. There was a colossal mistake she made before this one. I shot a video talking about that. And if you want to watch it, you can click on it because it's coming up right now.